Hey, what's up guys, Soldier Knows Best here. So today I have a comparison between the new iPhone 11 Pro Max and the OnePlus 7T. Now some out there may be wondering why I'm not doing the iPhone 11 versus the 7T since they are similar in price. But the main reason why I'm using both of these phones is because both of them have a triple camera setup on the back, a telephoto, a wide, and an ultra wide. And the iPhone 11 doesn't have the telephoto, but it does have the ultra wide and the wide. So I just wanted to do something that will allow me to showcase all of the cameras on these phones. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into this comparison. And I'm gonna kick things off with one that's going to be a blind comparison for you. So I'm putting up both of these pictures, and what I want you to do is just to try to look at these and find which one is going to be the best looking to you, not necessarily trying to figure out which one is the iPhone or which one is the one coming from the OnePlus 7T, just which one that you personally like the best. Okay, so I think I gave you enough time there, so let's go ahead and see which one is which. So on the left hand side we have the photo coming from the OnePlus 7T, and on the right hand side we have the picture coming from the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And I think this is going to be a pretty tough kind of decision for a lot of people. Both of these pictures look really good. Now my prediction was that neither one of these photos was just going to be a complete landslide victory, so leave your comment down below and let me know which one that you chose. But let's move on to the next one, and this one is going to showcase all three of the cameras on the back of these phones. All right, so first up we're going to use the main wide angle cameras, and you can see that the quality is very similar. I would say that the OnePlus 7T's picture is a little bit more warmer, but overall they're pretty close. And now we're going to punch in now with the telephoto cameras and my same kind of comments on the previous photos. And now let's go to the ultra wide, and same thing applies here. Now you can also see that there is going to be a little bit of a difference with the field of view. So some of these photos may look a little bit wider or a little bit closer up, and that's just really dealing with the cameras. And also too, some may be leaning to the side, but that's because I got bad knees. But anyway, just take note of that throughout this entire video. But moving on, let's go to some portrait mode pictures here. Now this is where you start to see a significant difference. The iPhone 11 just produces a better kind of creamy background. That blurred background is very nice. The depth effect that you get with this is really good, and the detail is there as well in my big face and my shirt, as you can see. And on the OnePlus 7T, you can see that I still have some really good detail in me, but that background just isn't as blurred out as I would want it to. And the good thing with the iPhone as well is that after you take your photo, you can go in and edit it and adjust that background blur to your personal liking, where on the 7T you just kind of have to go with what you got. So in this set of photos, you're really going to start to see the smart HDR start to kick in and work for the iPhone 11. And so when you look behind the flower, you can look at the shadows, and on the iPhone 11 the shadows have been lifted up a little bit so you can actually see more detail, where on the 7T they really preserved and just maintained those shadows, so they're still nice and dark, but you don't get that little extra detail. And then if you were to zoom in on the flower itself, you can see the iPhone 11 just has a little bit more sharpness, and you can see a lot of those individual details with this flower better. But the 7T has a new trick up its sleeve, and that is a new macro mode. And so this allows you to get up to, I think, 0.25 centimeters away from your subject to be able to get a usable picture. And you can see on the 7T, I was able to get really close, and it produces a nice image that kind of has a different feeling to it when you are up and close to something. And so taking a macro shot just really changes the atmosphere of what you're going for. But when you look over at the iPhone 11, it still is a good picture. I like the picture, but I couldn't get any closer than this and keep it in focus. And because the iPhone 11 does not have a manual mode like the 7T has, I wasn't able to kind of play around with the focus at all. So it's kind of like, all right, this is what the phone can give me. This is all I got. Now I mentioned earlier that I had bad knees, and this shot did not help that because I was crouching down, but I wanted to do this because I saw a really big difference in color between what the 7T was producing and what the iPhone 11 was producing. Now the situation that I was in right now was that it was sunset, and there was like a little bit of a pinkish kind of purplish glow in the sky. Is purplish an actual word? I don't know, but I just use it. But it did have this type of color in the sky, but it wasn't like this much where it felt like it was kind of making me look like Barney a little bit. But on the iPhone 11, it didn't really capture that color as much as I probably would want it to do. But what the iPhone did was just basically say, well, look, we're gonna balance out everything and just make a really good, nice looking image. But in that, it did make the picture look a lot brighter than what it was at the time, because it looks like I'm taking this picture maybe midday, maybe around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, where it was actually a lot more darker, and that is what is represented in the picture coming from the 7T. So both of these have some things that I would like to see better with them, but the better all around image, I still have to kind of lean towards the iPhone 11. All right, so now let's test out some night mode shots, because night mode is very popular nowadays. So these two pictures are with the night mode off. So these are just regular pictures, and you can see that the 7T actually kind of brightened up what I was looking at more so than what I thought. And so if you don't want to use night mode, you just want to kind of take the picture like normal, the 7T kind of wins. But when we do turn night mode on, I still feel that's the same case. I think the 7T takes a better picture. And that's because on the iPhone's picture, it looks like I'm actually holding like a flashlight to it. It's like a little too bright, where on the 7T, I think it brightened it up, but it still feels like a nighttime picture. All right, so let's take another look at the ultra wide cameras on these phones. Now, one thing I like about the 7T is that the ultra wide isn't like too ultra wide, if that makes sense. Whereas on the iPhone 11, you can see that towards the edges of the photos, it starts to kind of distort a little bit. Like it's a really nice wide shot. Like when you get it right, it looks really good. But sometimes I don't really need it to be as wide as what it is. But when you can look at the difference in colors though, I think the iPhone did a better job at capturing that warm golden glow that was happening at sunset. And then as we punch in and use the telephoto cameras, you can see that the detail is pretty consistent across both of these photos. You have a little bit of that color change there, but I'm happy with both of these pictures. Okay, so let's take a break from photos for a second and talk about videos. So I'm going to be doing my first test using the main rear cameras on the back, the wide angle cameras, and they're going to be recording at 4K at 30 frames per second. And let's be clear, the iPhone is going to win. Now the 7T does hold its own, but the iPhone will beat most, if not all, smartphones when it comes to video, and that includes stabilization and just the overall picture. But the 7T does a good job. But man, that iPhone video just remains crispy all the way through. Now this next test is going to be testing out the stabilization. So you can see that the iPhone does a better job by default, but the 7T does have an extra super stable mode that you can put on a video. But now this will change your field of view, so it will make your video a little bit wider, so you do have to compensate for that. But the stabilization is good, and I think with this super stable mode on, I actually like it a little bit more than just the stabilization that's on the iPhone 11. Okay, so now I'm on the iPhone 11 Pro Max testing out the front-facing camera. This is recording at 4K at 30 frames per second, and I think the quality is pretty good. Now I'm about to switch over to the OnePlus 7T. Okay, so now I'm on the 7T, and this is only recording in 1080p at 30 frames per second, so it should be a bump down in quality, but I still think it looks pretty good. And you can get a sense of the audio with this versus the iPhone 11 as I switch back over to the iPhone 11 Pro right now. Okay, so now I'm back on the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Hopefully you can see the difference between the audio. And something else I forgot to mention is that the ultra wide camera on the back of the OnePlus 7T, you cannot record video with that yet, but that will be coming in a feature software update, allowing it to record in 4K at 30 frames per second. Just thought I would throw that in here. All right, so now let's talk about software and the stock camera apps that come on these phones. So first, with the iPhone 11 Pro, we do have the camera app that is still easy to use, very easy to navigate, and it's pretty snappy, especially when you're switching between multiple cameras. And the one thing I like about it is that you do have a couple of extra added things in there, especially with portrait mode, where you have a few different portrait mode effects that can really make your picture look a lot different and more unique. Where on the OnePlus 7T, you have another app that's pretty simple, but you also do have the fact that you don't have those extra little portrait mode settings, but you do have a pro mode on here, so you can really kind of fine tune your image and make it exactly how you want and not just have to rely on the phone as much. And then the 7T's app, like all other Android camera apps, you have all the different settings inside of the app itself as far as changing the resolution and things like that, where in the iPhone, you still have to exit the camera app and go into the settings. Okay, so this is going to wrap up my camera comparison between the 7T and also the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now, as I mentioned before, these cameras are going to be pretty much the same that's on the iPhone 11. So if you want to look at price points, with the iPhone 11 starting at $699 and the 7T starting at $599, you have some cameras that are really competitive to each other. Now, I have to say that the iPhone does have better video and photos, just a better all-around package. But as you just saw, the 7T was still able to kind of like stand its ground there for a little bit. It still has some really good quality that you can get. You may have to work a little bit more for it. You may have to adjust the little things here and there, but you can still get some great images out of a phone that doesn't cost as much as these iPhones. So I really like the 7T. I like the iPhone 11. If I had to choose one to go out with just for the entire day, I'm gonna go with the iPhone. But if you like all these other unique things about the 17, you know, the software and the speed, the performance, the 90 hertz display, you're gonna be able to be just fine with the cameras and not feeling like you're just gonna be taking a downgrade just because you're not spending as much money as you are on other phones. So anyway, these are just my thoughts about these two phones. Leave your comment down below and let me know what you think about this camera comparison. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and like always, I do wanna thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.